I often get asked about product owners and how empowered they should be, or how many decisions, what kind of decisions can they make, especially when we're looking at scaling. And so the answer to this is the same regardless of if you're doing SAFe or Scrum at Scale or any of the other scaling frameworks. I know that some of the other Agile coaches out there might tell me that I'm wrong, but we're often hearing that things should be much more top down than what the Agile Manifesto really was looking for, and not even what's in the SAFe principles. So let's talk about this a little bit. So oftentimes we start off by hearing about all of this work that needs to be done across an organization and starting at the top of the organization. So for the purposes of this discussion, we're just going to call this a portfolio. So at the highest level of the organization, or maybe within a specific P&L, we're looking at what are those big rocks? What are those big themes that we're trying to decide on and deliver on? And then we might start to trickle those down or break those apart to say, how are those being supported by each one of our team of teams? Maybe there's a group of teams that are working together on a mission or on a specific type of product, and they're interacting and working together and coordinating on a fairly regular basis, all the way down to the teams who are doing the majority of the actual real work. Okay, so we have teams that are hopefully talking to their customers at least on an every sprint basis. So hopefully at least every 2 weeks. And they're getting that feedback from their customers. So let's take the example of a pretty high performing team with a product owner who's in tune with their specific customers. So let's say that during a sprint review, a customer says, hey, we're missing this piece. I appreciate all of these things that you delivered, but we're missing this one piece that's actually going to enable us to deliver all of the value that you're talking about. So in the old world, we would have said, you need to do a change request, or that'll never happen. It's a scope creep. But now we're actually asking for emergent items to show up in our backlog. So the product owner in this highly empowered space should be able to say, hey, I can have my team do this work. It's smaller than a sprint, and be able to just absorb that work. Maybe they'll have to deprioritize something else that's in their backlog. Hopefully they've left enough space in their plan to be able to accommodate that additional work. So they'll come to the team and have that conversation with the team, probably during backlog refinement, and the team will size or estimate how big that thing is. If they come out of that session and say, hey, this is actually bigger than what we would accept in sprint, then maybe that product owner is going to take that to what we would call a product owner sync, or a product team meeting, or a meta scrum. And this actually comes from a video that Henrik Nieberg did that a lot of people have seen, which is Product Owner in a Nutshell. In that video, he said that if you have multiple teams that do need to coordinate, then the product owner should come together on a regular basis and talk to each other. What a novel idea. In that video, he called the person who's kind of the product owner of that product owner team a chief product owner. And many of the places that we're working in these days, we're calling that a product manager. Very few job titles I've seen actually say chief product owner. But hopefully we're having those product owners come together on a regular basis, at least every single sprint, hopefully more often than that, to say, what did we learn? Is there anything that has changed our priorities? Do we need to trade backlog between these teams? And so as that item comes in, we might have that conversation to say, hey, is this more important than some of the things that maybe some of the other teams are working on? Do we trade off on that backlog? Or do we say, hey, this is really important. We're going to include this on our program backlog. It's actually a bigger thing, a feature or an epic, or whatever you want to call it. So now we're actually making that thing visible and sharing that on the program backlog. So we've got the product owners and the chief product owner working together to say, what are the most important things? Now, if the team comes back and says, this is huge, then we're going to make sure that we're having that conversation again with the product owners, kind of defining and detailing what that is. We might define that at an epic level. We might do something like a lean business canvas to help us with articulating that, and then taking that up to that overall portfolio. So that is often led by some sort of portfolio leader, maybe a chief product officer, maybe a director or VP of some sort of product thing. But basically, the product managers from each one of these programs are coming and having that conversation and saying, what are the most important things? How do we actually pull these things in? How do we pull those together? Let's just quickly take a look at the overall funnels. So typically, we're going to have really big things up here at the top. And so that funnel is going to be a lot wider. We're going to be able to identify ideas that, maybe they're going to take a couple of years, hopefully about a year or so. So all these epics for the purposes of this conversation. When we get to the program level teams, we're really looking at being able to accept smaller ideas into this. And so this is where we're typically calling these things features. Okay. And so oftentimes we're saying we'd like to be able to get these done within a quarter or so. And then at the team level down here, we're even smaller and we're saying the ideas that we're prioritizing up to the top are going to likely be what we would call stories. And you can add whatever other names that you would like on here. But at the portfolio level, we've got those big ideas. At program level, we have features that we're kind of focusing on within a quarter-ish time frame. And then at the team level, the things that are in their backlog are likely going to be stories. But if they have ideas that come in, we can definitely put those into that program level backlog or work together again with that product owner team to get that into the bigger bucket within that portfolio and be able to show the epics. So in conclusion, we do want our teams and our product owners that are supporting the teams to talk to the customers. We also want them to talk to each other and to come up with what are the high level features or even the high level epics that the teams are working on, and to be able to prioritize in each one of the specific areas. I hope that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions.